The Olympic Games in London in 2012 is expected to be a great event. Everyone is getting ready for the big moment when this stadium is full of people watching the world's best athletes. But, as has been the practice for centuries, some people in London are getting ready for a cash bonanza, playing on the strangers' lack of local knowledge. Anyone coming here from outside London should beware of the hidden dangers. In particular, if you come by car, you must beware of Boris's bungling bureaucrats. Across the river from the Tower of London is a very strange building. This is where London's Mayor Boris Johnson works. City Hall looks as if it's falling over onto the people below. Pity the people if it ever did. Pity the poor people too, who have to finance this glorified money box. Feel the weight of Boris's money collectors on you, and you may well squeal, for Boris's bungling bureaucrats are relentless in their pursuit of money for their master. City Hall's revenues, which help pay for the lifestyle of those in power, come from many sources, but one of the chief sources of cash is TfL. These letters actually stand for Transport for London, but some think they really mean tricksters, fools and layabouts. So, if you are thinking of coming to London for the Olympics, beware of Boris and his bungling bureaucrats. One of Boris's most successful bureaucrats has his office in this prestigious, expensive block in West London. He is Mark Underwood, the head of NSL. NSL is contracted to TfL to collect fines for traffic offences. For a stranger visiting London with its myriad of roads, Mark Underwood is a man you may have to deal with. Here is a typical example of how Mr. Underwood and his minions dealt with a stranger to London who obeyed the Road Traffic Act to the letter. This story concerns this car and the small caravan at the back. The width of the car and the caravan is 6 feet. From the front of the car to the rear of the caravan is 26 feet. This road in southeast London is generally busy because it leads through to the Blackwall Tunnel and All Points North. Along the road there are 2 signs, each saying that there is a 7 feet width restriction ahead and that wide vehicles should turn left at the junction. This restriction does not affect the car and caravan, of course, because they are only 6 feet wide. But as the car reaches the junction, it seems clear that there is a problem ahead. The length of straight road inside the chicane seems to be only about 18 feet. This is far too short for the car and caravan at 26 feet to enter safely. Here's a shot of this chicane from the sky. Turning it into a diagram, here is the bend, and here is the car and caravan. There's a few inches spare at each side. If the car drives into the chicane so that the caravan will not hit the bollards, the car is going to mount the central section on the right. If the car turns with the road, the caravan's going to hit the bollards. How can the car and caravan avoid an accident? In fact, he might be causing an accident. Because of this, the driver decided on the spur of the moment to use the bus lane. He immediately got a penalty charge of £120. He explained that he had to use the bus lane because it was dangerous to take the chicane. The reply was that travelling in the bus lane was against the law. But the bus lane regulations clearly state in Part 5, Paragraph 2, that vehicles may enter a bus lane to avoid an accident to ensure public safety and in an emergency. Boris's faceless bureaucrats continued claiming that the law was broken because it was a question of width, not of length. According to letters that the driver received from the faceless people at TfL and from NSL, he was guilty of a width violation. This was because his car and caravan is a wide vehicle. According to this logic, length equals width and vice versa. So the driver was guilty of a width violation because his vehicle was too long. Run that past me again. Getting such a simple point through to any rational person can be difficult, for the company you're dealing with has hidden hurdles. When you write to the post office box, your letter actually goes to Littlehampton on the south coast. It is then sent to NSL's offices hidden in Centre House in Croydon. Even here it is unlikely that Mark Underwood will give it his personal attention. If he did, you might not get such stupid answers to your letters, for NSL insisted for months that this was a question of width, not of length. The driver tried to get it into their heads that this was not a question of width, but a question of length. After some 9 months of wrangling, finally a meeting was arranged at Centre Tower in Croydon. At this meeting, it was agreed that a written apology should be made, the fine was to be forgotten, staff were to be instructed that such interpretations should not occur again, and there should be some kind of compensation given to the driver for all the agony he had suffered. At this point, Mark Underwood stepped in. He sent a letter to the driver. A brief apology was made for the inconvenience. There was to be no instruction to staff, and there was to be no compensation at all. A full account of the details of this incident was sent to every TfL board member, but no one even acknowledged the letters. The misleading sign at the junction has now been changed. Long vehicles as well as wide ones must now avoid the chicane. But what if the fine had not been forgotten? And what if the driver had refused to pay it? What would Boris's bureaucrats have done to collect the cash? Watch, O stranger, and learn about the boys from Bridgeman House. Waltham Abbey in North London is a lovely little town, but hidden in its depths is one of the most powerful buildings in the entire metropolis. Bridgeman House is the home of Boris's bailiffs, and all who owe Boris money should beware of his bailiffs. Marston's is the name most commonly used, though the company works under others. They have won awards for their work, but they have also attracted investigative journalists on the national newspapers. Marston's has its registered office in this modest house in Altrincham in Cheshire, but the heart of Marston's is here in Waltham Abbey. Of course, if you owe Boris money, you should pay up. But that is not exactly the attitude of Boris's bailiffs here. They seem to think that you should pay up even if you do not owe Boris any money. Take, for example, this small example of how they operate. A young man jumps onto the newly built tram link in Croydon. He doesn't have any cash with him, so he decides he will not buy a ticket. Off he goes, avoiding the £1 fare. He's found out by a ticket collector who takes his name and address, and he must pay a fine. Does the young man care about this? Not at all. For just like the tram, his identity simply vanishes from sight. That is because the answer to this young man's problem is quite simple. He gives a fake name and a fake address. And that is where the trouble starts. The bailiffs move in. They check out the fake address. It does not exist. So they look for a street with a similar name and begin to pester the resident who lives at the fake house number in that street. they send letters demanding the money and the fees already incurred. In this letter, issued by Drake's bailiffs, now merged into Marston's, they say it is a final notice. In fact, it was the first letter sent. The £1 has now gone up to some £350. That's the fee incurred already, even before the first letter is sent, they say. We have instructed our enforcement officers to attend your premises to remove your goods. Although this is the first letter, they state, no further notice shall be given, and our enforcement officers will attend to execute removal procedures, which roughly translated appears to mean we shall come when we like and take whatever we like. However, the young man who rode on the tram does not live at this address. The bailiffs ignore the pleas from the innocent residents, who are actually pensioners. They ignore the fact that they have actually gone to the wrong address. They claim they will burst through the door of the house, enter it, and take whatever will help pay for the outstanding money. Along the street, tongues begin to wag. The innocent pensioners approach TfL, for yes, Boris's boys are into this too. But TfL, the tricky fools and layabouts, do not wish to take on the bailiffs. One wonders why. They agree with Marston's, and they support Marston's view that the action taken is justified because the address closely matches that provided by the court. The boys from Bridgeman House are free to do as they please, all for a £1 fare on the tram in Croydon. And you may care to note that pensioners can travel on the tram for nothing. So why was the pensioner hassled about a fare on the tram? Some mistake, surely. Boris's bungling bureaucrats in Bridgeman House and across London at Westgate House live well on the proceeds of their work. But if you are coming to London for the Olympics, beware of falling into their clutches. If you wish to learn more about what Londoners think about Boris Johnson and his bungling bureaucrats, you might care to visit the following websites. But beware, for Boris's bureaucrats are very good at posting messages on the internet praising themselves and their beloved master. Never say you were not warned.
Boris, will you keep your hands off me? We don't want you now, so let us be. At the next election you will see. You'll be out and we'll be free. Boris, will you keep your hands off me? We don't want you now, so let us be. At the next election you will see. You'll be out and we'll be free.